familiar melody. And it's about that melody we need to speak a little bit. The melody I'm referring to, of course, is that which was going through Francis Scott Key's mind when he was out near the current Key Bridge aboard his own American ship. He wasn't aboard a British ship watching the bombardment. He also was not writing a poem. He was writing words to a song. He had already written one song before, honoring Stephen Decatur, the naval American hero, back in 1805. So when Key was out on board that ship, he was not made a prisoner of war. He wasn't writing a poem. He wasn't writing on an envelope, because envelopes hadn't been invented in 1814. And most importantly, he was just rethinking and reusing this melody, for which we have literally hundreds of different sets of verses. So it turns out, printed, I'm sure this song was written shortly after the battle, because of the incredible amount of detail that's contained in it. But it's a song that shows up in 1842 in a collection of many, many, many songs published by a guy named William McCarty. The song is called The Battle of North Point. The tune, Anacreon in Heaven. Let me sing some of this for you. There are 14 verses. I think 9 will do. And by that time, maybe the shade will work its way over back to protect me here. But this song is in incredible detail. It's an historical document. When Francis Scott Key's writing about the defense of Fort McHenry, he's not describing the names of the military leaders. He's not talking about the events which led to it. He's not dropping details. He's thinking big picture. Francis Scott Key was a gentleman. He's writing an upper-class song. This is more of a lower-class song. That's why you'll like it. To the same tune. I've never done this. This is a debut. First performance of The Battle of North Point. Selected verses. Hark, hark was the cry when Baltimore town was besieged by the plundering Coburn and Co. Hear you not the great guns, hear you not the trump sound. Haste, haste was the cry, let us meet the proud foe. Let us march heart in hand, let us make a bold stand, and teach those invaders to cautiously land. For this ground our fathers declared should be free, and as dutiful sons we'll enforce their decree. Brave General Stryker commands our brigade. This patriot and soldier of the old revolution expects every man will afford him his aid to meet and repulse those mad slaves of delusion. He commands all to form, says our work will be warm, and exhorts every man to prepare for the storm. Shall we basely admit, my brave soldiers, says he, or fly to the standard their fight to be free? Brave Sterret of yore with the 5th led the van. That's the 5th Regiment. In fact, there's a footnote in the song to let you know exactly what they mean. Brave Sterret of yore with the 5th led the van, and his cry was old Bladensburg boys now remember. We have fought them before, we must fight them again. Our city, my boys, we can never surrender. March, march was his cry, haste forward we fly. Fear not, my brave men, we for freedom can die. Our forefathers died to enforce this decree, that we should enjoy both the land and the sea. The brave 27th commanded by long life and long health to our brave old commander. His cry was, boys, forward, we'll meet the great dawn. By Wellington taught I this great Alexander. This hero from Spain, this monster of fame, sure Washington city records to his shame. He has sworn in our city tomorrow he'll dine. So forward, brave, forward, and balk his design. We marched for North Point and encamped for the night, prepared for attack by the light of the morning. Near hand to Bear Creek we prepared for the fight, the fatigues of the field and the danger still scorning. As this was the day, great Ross was heard say, he would dine in our town, he'd no longer delay. So we formed a world line in our old Yankee style to wait for this lord from the fast-anchored isle. Scarce had he spoke when Express brought the news that Ross was in sight on his foaming steed prancing. Then part of the Bladensburg heroes were chose to wait on his lordship, then boldly advancing. When lo, their first fire brought down great Goliath, he went down to dine with his aged grandsire. To dine in our city determined was he, or else dine in hell, so there let him be. Our 1,200 freemen collected by chance were opposed to this well-chosen band of old Neros. We had long in old Spain fought the armies of France, and had long been called Lords Wellington's heroes. They sent us by spells, shots, rockets, and shells, which sent many brave fellows down to their cells. So we gave them 12 rounds, it was true Yankee fire, but being outflanked, we were forced to retire. This is like verse 6 of 14. Just a couple to close with. But here's another bit of historical information. 1,600 bombs by old Coburn's command at our fort were discharged by this famed son of plunder, while unmoved stood brave Armistead, the well-chosen band, sending back their full charge in red-hot Yankee thunder. Board the ships that drew nigh was a dreadful outcry. "'Bout ship was the word, we from danger must fly. This damned Yankee powder too strong you may see for His Majesty's ships, so boys, helms a-lee." To conclude, here's a health to our chief men and co. Their judicious plan was our city's salvation. To our officers, generals, poor, rich, and low, our soldiers, our sailors, our friends, and our nation. Now pause for the slain who died to maintain Columbia's rights on the land and the main. Peace, peace to the shades, to their memory tear. Of their sons, may the great God of battles take care. Battle of North Point. Okay. Here's something fun. I hope it's been actually a little fun already, but here's something more fun. Here's the song that was unbeknownst to me last year. I've played, I guess, the last 7 Defenders Days, I think, in a row, and then my wife and I played a bunch before then. Maybe someday she'll come back with me and we'll play together. That would be fun. But in all those times, we were really glad when we found a Yankee doodle called the Battle of Baltimore. And that's what I'd like to do next, actually. This one we discovered a few years ago, I guess maybe 5 years ago. It's a parody of Yankee Doodle, meaning it's the same melody, different words. And what's really a hoot about it is that it's written, the chorus is just barely adjusted. It becomes Yankee Doodle beat the drum, Yankee Doodle dandy. And if by day or night they come, they'll always find us handy. And the reason for that is the drum, of course, is the signal. The drummers beat through the city, calling everyone out to help aid the defense of Fort McHenry. Also, to help all of the the battlements that were built to try to keep the British from getting into Baltimore from here. It took thousands and thousands of men. Some estimate now as many as 8,000 to 10,000 able-bodied Americans, white and black, came and answered that drum to come and help defend the city. The other thing in the chorus is that day and night. Well, of course, the bombardment of Fort McHenry took place over a 25-hour period through day and night, as did the landing of the Marines here over the day and the night times for several days. Did those British land on these shores. So, let me pull up these words. They're extremely clever. There's a nice reference to General Ross, who got himself killed here at the Battle of North Point. This very, very famous British general who had fought under Wellington and had great successes in Spain and on the continent. He was very cocky. I'll sing a song a little bit later that puts the words right back on General Ross, who claimed, "I will dine tonight in Baltimore or I will dine in hell." Turns out he did the latter after he was picked off by a sharpshooter. So what do we do in this song? We make fun of Ross. We say he's going to be shipped back to Halifax in a cask of rum, because that's how you preserved bodies before formaldehyde. There are a few other references here. to some of the defenders, and in fact it also gives us a clue on pronunciation. You'll hear as we get to a later verse, there are different ways to pronounce, who is it, one of these guys here? Winder. Some people say winder, some people say winder. Well, in this case it rhymes with blind, sir. So I think it's a long I. At least some people pronounced it that way. Here we go, the Battle of Baltimore. We'll practice the chorus once or twice first. Yankee Doodle beat the drum, Yankee Doodle dandy. If by day or night they come, they'll always find us handy. Not that hard. Give it a try. If I can do it after eating lobsters last night, you guys can do it. Out here in the hot sun. Here we go. Yankee Doodle beat the drum, Yankee Doodle dandy. If by day or night they come, they'll always find us handy. By the way, this song was published right next to the Defense of Fort McHenry, which is the song text that later became the Star Spangled Banner. It was published in a songster out of Hagerstown, Maryland, in November of 1814. We found a couple other versions of it printed and also copied out by hand. This is our song for this day. It goes like this. Come all you brave Americans and join the song of glory, all ye that fought so brave of late and drove them on before ye. When Ross made his approach on land and Coburn on the water, they thought we'd play into their hand without attempt at slaughter. Yankee Doodle beat the drum, Yankee Doodle dandy. If by day or night they come, they'll always find us handy. When Coburn passed the fort below and Ross had passed the point, sir, he gave 3 cheers to let Ross know that he was not behind, sir. So Coburn, if you come again to visit us at night, sir, don't cry hurrah before you know that you're exactly right, sir. Yankee Doodle beat the drum, Yankee Doodle dandy. If by day or night they come, they'll always find us handy. And Ross the same advice might take, but since with rum he's blind, sir, his army may depend that Smith is not like General Winder. We've powder plenty, grape shot too, so have we men to hand them. Musket balls we have a few, we're sure you cannot stand them. Yankee Doodle beat the drum, Yankee Doodle dandy. If by day or night they come, they'll always find us handy. If Coburn, Cochrane, or Lord Hill again our town will visit, we hope our soldiers will have skill enough to make 'em miss it. And if their lordships will advance, our fear will be what little. We'll surely play a soldier's dance upon our iron fiddle. Yankee Doodle beat the drum, Yankee Doodle dandy. If by day or night they come, they'll always find us handy. Then let's unite by sea and land, may victory crown our navy. And if like Ross they come, we'll stand and drive them to old Davy. That's Davy Jones' locker, of course. Therefore, ye brave Americans, join the song of glory, and fight as ye have fought of late to drive them on before ye. Yankee Doodle beat the drum, Yankee Doodle dandy. If by day or night they come, they'll always find us handy. The Battle of Baltimore. Here's another thing that may surprise you. We Americans refer to ourselves not just as Americans, but as Columbians. We are very conscious and thankful of Christopher Columbus and what he did here in the New World. And so Columbia is a synonym for American. There are a couple other terms you'll find scattered through these pieces. But let me give you a little sample of what sailors would do in the 18th and 19th centuries for fun, because there wasn't a lot of... There was free time on boats, but there wasn't a lot to do unless you were creative. The main thing they would do is dance hornpipes. Whoa, that's one hot whistle in the sun. I guess I don't have to warm it up to cool it down. This is actually a modern penny whistle. Penny whistles technically weren't invented and in use until about the 1830s or 40s. So the true wind instruments of 18th and 19th century America were what we call a recorder today. This is known back then as a common flute, or English flute, or just flute. And then the German flute, which is the predecessor of the modern classical flute that you'll see in the concert stages. The German flute's much harder to play. The English style flute, you just toot right into it, put your fingers down. So I'll do you two quick hornpipes. One on a more period-appropriate instrument, the English flute, and then one on the penny whistle. This is called Flowers of Edinburgh. You're free to get up and dance if you'd like. Hornpipes look very much like Irish step dancing or river dancing, if you've seen those kinds of programs. But it's all improvised and definitely improved by the flow of grog around the ship before they start dancing. Flowers of Edinburgh, followed by Harvest Home Hornpipe. Right after that battle, in 1814, broadside meaning a piece of music that has no musical notation, just the words. And it was published under the title, The Siege of Plattsburgh. Well, that refers to Plattsburgh, New York, the Battle of Champlain, September 11 September in 1814. So just before things got really wild here. The Americans had a great victory under Commodore McDonough. This song, though, was specified was to be sung in the character of a black sailor. And this is one of the first examples of an African-influenced popular piece of music that's published in America. I won't so much follow all of the misspellings, the intentional misspellings in these lyrics, but I'll certainly follow the language as it's reported by a black sailor aboard a ship on the battle, observing the Battle of Lake Champlain. What I'm using is a djembe drum. These are the kinds of drums that slaves were forbidden to build and to have on plantations here in the Chesapeake. There was great fear that the slaves would use the drums to signal and coordinate insurrection, and yet they kept building them. In fact, not only did they build these, but if you hollow out a gourd, you put skin on the top, and then you add a nice little neck and some gut strings. You know what you end up with? A banjo. And there are lots of banjos reported here on the shores of the Chesapeake Bay. So, a little drum accompaniment to the Siege of Plattsburgh, to be sung in the character of a black sailor. Backside Albany stands Lake Champlain, a little pond half full of water. Plattsburgh there, too close upon the main town, small but grew bigger ever after. On Lake Champlain, Uncle Sam sent his boats, and Master McDonough, he sails them, while General Macomb makes Plattsburgh his home, with an army whose courage never failed him. On the 11th day of September in 1814, Governor Prevost and all his British men came to Plattsburgh, a tea party courtin', and his boats came too after Uncle Sam's boats. McDonough looked sharp out the window, and General Macomb, always at home, caught fire just like a tinder. Bang, 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 the cannons start to roar in Plattsburgh and all around the quarter. Governor Prevost tries his hands upon the shore, while his boats try their luck upon the water. But Master McDonough knocked his boat upon its head, broke his heart and broke his shin and stove his calf in. And General Macomb starts old Prevost heading home. To my soul then I must die a-laughin'. host was scared, so he left all behind, powder ball, cannon, teapot, and kettle. Some say he caught a cold and troubles in his mind, 'cause he ate so much raw and cold victual. Uncle Sam, sorry to be sure for his pain, wish he made himself up well in our tea. For General Macomb and McDonough's coming home gave him a notion for another tea party. Thank you. This fellow, Anacreon, was especially known for writing songs about love and songs about wine. In fact, he was kind of a Hugh Hefner of his day. He celebrated the hedonistic pleasures. And when his writings and songs were rediscovered in the early 18th century, the word anacreontic became an adjective describing a gathering, a piece of poetry, or soon a song. So the song was written to celebrate this gentleman's club that took his name, the Anacreontic Society they were. And in their very first verse, they sort of pretend their way through calling out the spirit of Anacreon up in heaven sitting on a cloud. The first verse begins, "To Anacreon in heaven, where he sat in full glee, a few sons of harmony sent a petition, that he their inspirer and patron would be, when this answer appeared from that jolly old Grecian." And Anacreon answers back, "Voice, fiddle, and flute, no longer be mute. I'll lend you my name and inspire you to boot. And besides, I'll instruct you like me to entwine the myrtle of Venus with Bacchus's vine." You can't name Bacchus in a song and not have it be a drinking song. And that's fine, it's just not a low-class drinking song like What Do You Do with a Drunken Sailor or 99 Bottles of Beer on the Wall. It's a high-class drinking song. And it's not surprising that it caught on. What I think is kind of cool is that the year that that song was published in very fine sheet music in London is the same year Francis Scott Key was born out in Frederick, Maryland, 1779. And so the story really of the drinking song melody and Francis Scott Key, the young gentleman who would come to my town of Annapolis and study at St. John's College, and later focus on law, and then find himself accompanying securing the release of a prisoner out on this very river. This whole story really begins on those two continents. And oh my gosh, there are just so many more fun details that I could trouble you with now.
Oh, thus be it e'er, when free men shall stand between their loved ones and the war's desolation. Blessed with victory and peace, may the heaven rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. Then conquer we must, when our cause it is just, and this be our motto: in God is our trust, and the star